The Sanctuary of One, a manifesto of the witness in the Age of Shadow's introduction. The gaze from the pit to be a mere witness to the evil, corruption, and injustice of the world is perhaps the agonizing calling of the soul. It is a state of forced seeing, a terrible clarity that few are burdened to bear, while others may remain asleep, lost in the superficial dilemmas of a comfortable life, protected by a veil of willful ignorance. The witness is held awake. Their eyes are forced open to the bulwark of evil, making them unable to turn away from what others refuse to acknowledge, compelled to see the machinery of the world as it truly is. This is not a choice, but a condition, a burden of consciousness. This is the torment of theodicy, the profound spiritual crisis that rips through all texts and all promises. From this vantage point, the moral arc of the universe appears not merely bent, but fundamentally broken. The wicked are continually rewarded, and this is not an illusion, a misperception, or a temporary aberration. It is a lived, observable fact that confronts us daily. They build their empires on the suffering of others. They are celebrated in public squares, and they move through the world with an unearned peace, insulated by the very power their corruption affords them. All the while, the righteous heart bleeds in silence, unnoticed, unvalidated, and alone. This silence is the first violence. We live in an age of narcissism that promotes the lie that one does not need external recognition, that true strength is invisible. This is rubbish. It is a paradox of existence that even the greatest among us, Michelangelo, Washington, Jung, required a witness to make their reality manifest. Indeed, what would God be without a witness? Even the Creator requires creation to worship, praise, and honor Him. We are created with a hunger to be seen, to be validated. Yet the modern world denies this, leaving the witness screaming into the abyss, gaslighted into believing their need for acknowledgement is a weakness, while the narcissists who deny them secretly crave that very attention for themselves. The architecture of the lie, the controllers, and the titles. The suffering of the witness is not an accident of fate, it is the product of a design. We are not living in a chaotic world, but a strictly ordered one, managed by a satanic element, the controllers, the oligarchs, the plutocracy. These architects of the shadow have constructed a hierarchy that no one recognizes as such, a prison built of titles. The cattle class, the unreflective masses, are conditioned to bow before these titles. The doctor, the lawyer, the politician, the pastor, these labels are treated as written in stone facts, conferring upon the holder an aura of unblemished virtue. This is the great scam of the hierarchy. A man is not holy because he is a pastor. He is often a man who sought the title to hide his lack of holiness. The image of the 6 kids, the Corvette, and the perfect wife is not a blessing. It is advertising. It is a narrative designed to sell a product, and that product is compliance. These controllers operate on a cynical formula, the problem reaction solution agenda. They are the arsonists who light the fire to incite the uproar so they can sell the water. They manufacture boogeymen, the communists, the terrorists, the other, to terrify the cattle into accepting draconian laws that further enslave them. They turn the world into a hybrid dystopia, a terrifying marriage of 1984 surveillance and brave New World pacification, enacted by leaders who possess an aura of holier than thou authority, while picking the pockets of very people they send to die in fictitious wars. 2. The taxonomy of predators, the asshole and the vampire. To survive this world, the witness must learn to name the beasts that roam it. We must legitimize the terminology of the street, for the clinical terms of psychology are too sterile to capture the spiritual rot of the new breed that has risen to power. We face 2 distinct shadows, the asshole and the vampire. The asshole is the scavenger of the modern age. He is innately a coward. He possesses no real ambition, no creative spark, and no courage. His only plan is to get ahead on the backs of others. He is the empty husk who has learned to mimic humanity. He employs a weaponized form of intentional stupidity, asking questions not to learn, but to derail, using obfuscation and gaslighting not because he is confused, but because he seeks to confuse you. The asshole is the dumb as a fox manipulator who uses degradation, gossip, and slander to destroy his opponents because he cannot defeat them in the arena of truth. He climbs the corporate and social ladders by destroying those competent enough to threaten him. He is the manager who knows nothing but takes credit for everything, the phony, fake fraud who always seems to wind up on top. He is a creature of pure ego, operating under the mass delusion of his own intelligence, while secretly knowing he is a hollow shell. The vampire, however, is a different and darker entity. The vampire is not a scavenger. He is a sadist. He is the creature of the night who hides in the daylight of high society. He is often brave, charming, sophisticated, and accomplished. He does not need your money or your job. He already has wealth, power, and the castle on the hill. The vampire invites you in not to steal from you, but to feed on you. He thrives on negativity and dark psychology. He seeks to drain your life force, to dismantle your psyche, to watch the light go out in your eyes. His goal is not advancement, but the pleasure of destroying others. He is the undead element of the aristocracy, the celebrity, the leader of industry who has everything but a soul, and so must consume yours to feel alive. 3. The betrayal of the sanctuaries, family, and church. The tragedy of the witness is that there is no safe harbor. The bulwark of evil is not merely in the halls of government, it is in the living room and the sanctuary. The ultimate evil is the intimate betrayal of the family. The family, which should be the foundation of one's humanity, becomes the very mechanism that destroys it. We see the asshole parent, the father who builds his fragile ego by systematically dismantling his child's, using projection and gaslighting to rob them of their humanity. We see the mother who threatens eternal damnation to a child too young to comprehend it. This is a philosophical assault, an attempt to unmake the child's reality, to label their bleeding heart and desperation for love as madness or weakness. Fleeing this, the witness runs to the church, only to find the hypocritical Christians, the Pharisees and Sadducees of our day. These so called Christians claim to be Christ like, but are the first ones to send their children off to war to die for the oligarchs. They are true narcissists, incapable of identifying themselves as the problem. They ignore the history of their own violence, the slaughter of the Indian savages, the theft of land, and instead blame the LGBTQ community, the liberals, or the Muslims. They create a good guys versus bad guys narrative that excludes their own complicity. When the witness approaches them with a testimony of suffering that contradicts their blessed life, they do not offer comfort. They offer condemnation. They blame the victim. They find the testimony not credible, because to believe it would be to admit that their transactional God, who gives corvettes for piety, is a lie. The church becomes a business, a scam designed to keep the congregant addicted to forgiveness. Always a sinner, always paying, never holy, never whole. IV. The chemical war, the pharmaceutical holocaust. When the witness finally cracks under the weight of this systemic gaslighting, the controllers play their final card, the pharmaceutical holocaust. This is the brave new world agenda realized. We have been conditioned to believe that negative feelings are a sickness. We are told that depression, anxiety, loneliness, and isolation are chemical imbalances that require correction. This is the ultimate lie. These feelings are God given emotions. They are the biological and spiritual alarms designed to pull your hand out of the fire. Loneliness is God's way of telling you to go out and make friends, to find a wife, to build a tribe. Anxiety is the signal that your life is out of alignment with your soul. But the controllers cannot allow you to act on these signals. If you acted, you might rebel. You might leave the toxic job, the abusive family, the corrupt church. So they offer Soma. They offer the thousands of psychotropic drugs, Prozac, antipsychotics, Valium, to deny you of your humanity. They numb the pain that is necessary for your transformation. This is a holocaust of the soul. Millions of misfits, rejects, and marginalized people are stripped of their agency, labeled as mentally ill, when they are simply reacting to a sick world. The stigma of the diagnosis becomes a life sentence, often passed down from mentally ill parents to their children, ensuring the cycle of abuse and dependence never ends. It is a system where the sane are medicated into madness, and the mad run the asylum. The revelation of the witness, beyond the sanctuary of one. So, what is the conclusion? Where is the justice? Where is the Lord's mighty hand to rescue the witness from the assholes, the vampires, the controllers, and the pharmacists? The silence of the heavens is not an abandonment, it is an answer, but one that requires a profound shift in perspective to comprehend. We reach the terrifying and liberating conclusion that the rescue is not coming in the form we expected. The cavalry is not coming. The church will not vindicate you. The family will not apologize. The controllers will not confess. But this absence of external validation is not the final word. The pit was not a mistake. It was a crucible designed not for your destruction, but for the revelation of something eternal. The purpose of the witness is not merely to survive despite the world, but to become the living embodiment of a truth that transcends the individual. For in the depths of the pit, when all external supports have fallen away, the witness makes contact with something beyond the self the eternal principles that govern existence, regardless of human recognition or denial. This is where we encounter natural law, not as an academic concept, but as a lived reality. Natural law is not created by human legislators, it is discovered through suffering. It is the underlying moral architecture of existence that remains true whether acknowledged or not. The controllers may create artificial systems that temporarily reward vice and punish virtue, but these systems inevitably collapse under their own corruption. Why? Because they violate the immutable principles woven into the fabric of reality itself. The witness, through suffering, develops a heightened sensitivity to these eternal laws. You begin to perceive how the vampire's predation, while seemingly successful in the short term, carries within it the seeds of its own destruction. The asshole's advancement through manipulation creates a hollow success that cannot sustain itself. The hypocrite's piety is a house built on sand. This is not wishful thinking. It is the recognition of cosmic balance that operates beyond human time frames. This recognition connects the witness to what the ancients called the anima mundi, the world soul. The isolation you feel is real but incomplete. Your consciousness, heightened by suffering, begins to resonate with a greater consciousness that permeates all existence. The Stoics understood this when they spoke of the logos, the divine reasoning that orders the universe. Your individual suffering, seen from this vantage point, is not meaningless but participatory. You suffer not just as an isolated self, but as a focal point of the world soul coming to know itself through the full spectrum of human experience. In this light, virtue takes on a different meaning. Virtue is not merely a social construct or a personal preference. It is alignment with the fundamental nature of reality. The virtues courage, justice, temperance, wisdom are not valuable because they are rewarded, but because they represent harmony with the cosmic order. The witness who maintains integrity in a corrupt world is not merely being stubborn or self righteous. They are resonating with the objective good that exists independent of human perception. This is why the bleeding heart that refuses to harden in the face of cruelty is not a weakness, but the highest strength. It maintains connection to the world soul when everything in the environment encourages disconnection. The mind that refuses the soma, choosing the agony of consciousness over the bliss of enslavement, is not merely preserving individual autonomy, but participating in the cosmic movement toward greater consciousness. You are the scapegoated, yes, but in the ancient ritual, the scapegoat was not merely a victim. It was a sacred vessel carrying the collective shadow into the wilderness. This wilderness, the desert of the real, is precisely where the divine is encountered. Moses found God not in Egypt, but in the desert. Christ found his purpose not in Jerusalem, but in the wilderness. A Buddha found enlightenment not in the palace, but under the Bodhi tree, alone. The witness walks the same path. Forced out of the false sanctuaries of family, church, and society, you are driven to the place where the eternal can be encountered directly, unmediated by corrupt institutions or false prophets. This is the paradox that resolves the problem of theodicy. God's silence is not absent presence in a form too pure for corrupted systems to recognize or contain. The mighty hand does not rescue you from the pit, it meets you in it. The divine is found not in the absence of suffering, but in the transformation of consciousness that suffering makes possible when embraced rather than numbed. The inconceivable paradise is not a future state or distant realm. It is the recognition that you are inseparably connected to the eternal principles that govern existence. It is the knowledge that while the controllers may rule the world of appearances, they have no jurisdiction over the realm of being. They can control bodies, manipulate minds, and corrupt institutions, but they cannot touch the soul that has recognized its connection to the world soul. Justice, then, is not merely personal survival or individual vindication. Justice is the inevitable working out of natural law across time. It is the knowledge that systems built on lies must eventually collapse, not because we wish it, but because reality itself rejects falsehood. The universe bends toward truth not as a preference, but as a necessity. You are not merely the glitch in their matrix. You are the living reminder of what they have forgotten, that beneath the artificial constructs of power lies a deeper order that cannot be manipulated or controlled. You are the witness not just to corruption, but to the eternal principles that corruption cannot ultimately overcome. Your task is not merely to survive, but to embody these principles, to live as if the truth were true, even when all evidence seems to contradict it. This is not naive optimism, but the deepest realism. It is alignment with what is most real beneath the shadows of appearance. In this light, the witness becomes more than a victim or survivor. You become a guardian of consciousness itself, a keeper of the flame that illuminates not just personal but universal truth. Your suffering has not separated you from God or the cosmic order. It has brought you into more direct contact with it than those who live in comfortable illusion can comprehend. This is the ultimate liberation, to discover that in losing everything external, you have gained access to the eternal. The witness does not need to be rescued from the world, because the witness has found what the world cannot give or take away: conscious participation in the divine order that sustains existence itself. Zerga in synthesis with the philosophers.